text number 1 to 6. This section is about Uddhava's ecstatic remembrance of Lord Krishna. So we'll read the translations. You all have the mic with you, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Sundaran Prabhu, here devotees are in Krishna house locally, they are reading the we have a certain style of following the section, so they will read it today. Huh?
Sure, brother. Thank you.
Sri Shukadev Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord.
Text number 2. Is the volume coming? Can you hear? All right.
He was one who, even in his childhood at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it.
Yeah. So, Uddhava was just a 5-year-old boy, and he was so absorbed in Krishna's service that he didn't want to even go for breakfast. So, Prabhupada says in the purport here that Uddhava as a small child was absorbed in decorating and dressing Krishna, and he became addicted to that loving service to Lord. Can any of you remember any other examples besides Uddhava, who as a small child was, Dhruva also. He was just 5-year-old boy, Dhruva. Any other example? Narada boy? Who? Narada Muni, in his previous life, was son of a maid servant. When he was a small 5-year-old boy, his mom engaged him in service of the Bhaktivedantas. And not only he was serving the Bhaktivedantas, as we said, he also actually became absorbed in that service. He developed a loving attraction to service of the pure devotees. Thank you. One more example. Prahalad also, yeah. He was not only practicing, he was preaching also to his friends, school friends. One more example, proper quotes in this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here Krishna. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Prabhupada, very good. Prabhupada says he and his sister Bhavtarini would get up from the bed hearing the ringing of the bell by his father worshipping the God on the altar. Later on, they both would go to see Radha Govind puja. He was very attracted to that. And one more thing Prabhupada did, which he spread it all over the world. Anybody can think of? Yeah. Yes, Rath Yatra, correct? Rath Yatra as a small boy. Initially, he did as a small child. Then later on, he spread it all over the world. Yeah, thank you. There is one more example quoted in this purport. Everybody can guess. Prabhupada quotes one more example. Probably it is not well known. It is actually Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj saw the Lord in the womb of his mother, and Lord was carrying a mace in his hand and rotating it and going round and round. So when he saw that, he developed attraction for the Lord. When he came out of his mother's womb, he was worshipping Krishna dolls. So, see, what I have shown in blue is actually example, and the yellow ones are concepts in the purport. So the first, the one Prabhupada quotes Uddhava example. And then Prabhupada says that these are all signs of an eternally liberated soul. The eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. Human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relationship with the Lord. And all these intentions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. And soon we make the awakening, quicker our human life mission is fulfilled. And then he says, in good family of devotees, child gets such opportunities. And then he quotes the example of Chichinam Shimadam. He quotes that even a fallen devotee in Krishna consciousness, after returning from heaven, one gets a birth in a Brahmana family or a well-to-do mercantile family. In both these families, opportunity for God consciousness is there. And then Prabhupada says, the Pancharatriki Vidhi with which you worship the Lord, there are two Vidhis. Pancharatriki is deity worship. Bhagavat Vidhi is hearing and chanting Bhagavatam. So both are important. And then he quotes the example of Parikshit, the last section, you see. Yeah. In India, it's very common, we have seen, when we were small kids, we would wonder, what are these two blue dolls they have kept at home? One blue doll is having a conch and wheel. Another blue doll is having a flute, because they will look similar. But then gradually we would learn the difference. And there will be another doll with a green color having a bow and arrow. So in those days when we were very small children, such dolls were very common. Now in those shops, instead of selling dolls, they are selling cricket bats now, because times have changed now. Yeah. So let's go to the third verse. Please read the read the translation, please.
And in his old age, that attitude service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Spirit, he at once remembered all about it.
Yeah. So in childhood, whatever inclination he had, that continued in old age. So this is a very, very famous verse. It is. This is actually this purport can help us develop enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. So the yellow one I have shown there is actually talking about mundane service versus spiritual service. In mundane service, we get tired. We are given retirement from companies. But in spiritual service, we are not given. So the one question to all of you, even as a devotee, we are practicing Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we find the service becomes burdensome. Here Prabhupada says it is never burdensome. You see the blue one, Prabhupada says, materially when a man becomes tired in rendering physical service body, he is given retirement because it's on a bodily plane. But service on the bodily plane dwindles, he says. But the spirit is never old, therefore spiritual plane of service never tiresome, he says. So in our ISKCON temples, we all have experience. When we come in the early days, we are super enthusiastic. But then as years pass, sometimes last minute assignment nobody likes. Some seva, or we call it as ad hoc service, we call it. We want scheduled service, unscheduled service we don't like. So how do we understand this purport in light of that? Because Prabhupada says only mundane service is boring, hackneyed, and also burdensome, whereas spiritual service is enlivening, enthusing, and ever fresh, like that he says. Anybody would like to throw some light on that? Is my question clear?
My guess, is it because our mood of service is not the same anymore, and therefore it's tainted with our consciousness?
Okay, good. Thank you. We'd like to hear more from other devotees, more answers. There is one hand up way behind.
Hare Krishna. So I'm still very enthusiastic about my service because I'm new, but I feel like in order to maintain that momentum, for me, it would all come down to the association, being around other enthusiastic devotees.
Thank you. So one of the things is true, when you are surrounded by enthusiastic devotees, you feel younger and more fresh also. That's true. Okay, thank you. And what you said is also a good point. Both the points are very valid, very nice points. Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
Krishna wants to direct us in a different direction. Like Vyasadeva, he was dissatisfied in
With
his
one
service.
And And then he was given a new direction, new guidelines by spiritual master. And then, that could be one of the reasons also. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhu, sure.
It's important to make sure that we have balance, because if we try to do too much and over endeavor in our service, we can lose our equilibrium.
Yeah, that's a very important point. I was looking for that point, which is a very, very valid point. His Grace Gurujan Prabhu writes in his book, My Glorious Master, there was an initiation ceremony to be held the next day. The day before, many devotees told him that when one goes for initiation, it's a great blessing that's coming upon your life. So, and then immediately after initiation, one should engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Guru. And by rendering more and more service, one goes back to Godhead. So when he heard about it, he was in a very enthusiastic mood that day, the day before initiation. So there was some old building to be torn down with some steel rods, very heavy iron rods, very heavy iron rods. So there were a few devotees doing, and there was an invitation given to anyone wishes to come and do that service is welcome. So announcement was made. So Prabhu immediately went, and then he took that heavy iron rod and started tearing down the old building. He did for 3-4 hours. When he completed the service and took a bath and came, his whole body was paining. You all know when you take an iron rod and break down a wall, the whole shoulder, hands, legs, the whole body was paining. So whole night he was suffering from the body pain. He couldn't get a good sleep. So next day morning he got up, eyes were bloodshot. And in those days, devotees used to prepare beads and bring to Prabhupada. You have to prepare your own beads and bring. So he had prepared and kept, but he forgot where he kept it. So in the morning he was searching all the while from early morning. And at last, by the time he got the beads and went to Srimad Bhagavatam class of Prabhupada, he was sitting in the front. Because whole night he didn't have a good sleep, and morning also he was searching the beads. He was damn tired, and he was a bit of dozing in the class. And Prabhupada noticed and said, get up. And Prabhupada said, everyone should be alert in the class and everything. So then Prabhu writes in the realization, reflection, he says that our enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness should be tempered with practicality, he says. So because we have a human bodily limit. So recently we heard one sad news that there were 4 or 5 brahmacharis, one of the disciples of His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. They were traveling in a car in India, and they had only slept 3 hours or so the night. They slept at midnight, got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They had to go to another place. Many of the ISKCON devotees want to sleep late and get up early. And they want to start for airport also late and reach airport early, because they think they have a spiritual body. So when they were going in the car, at one point of time, the driver dozed. But at that time, there were 4-5 cows standing. So the car went and hit a couple of, and the cows were just standing. When they hit the cow, suddenly they woke up and they saw a couple of cows died. But ahead of the cow was a deep valley. So the cows, as if cows stopped the cars and saved these devotees. Otherwise, the car would have gone straight into the valley and all 4-5 of them would have died. Now the cows died, and then the devotees were completely broken down. So they were asking their seniors about what we should do for this. It's a blunder. The first thing they were told is that, never drive a vehicle when you have not taken adequate rest. So devotees require 6 hours sound sleep. Some of them require even little more also. Sometimes 6.5 also they need. So in our Pune temple, we tell the devotees, even if you want to sleep at 7 o'clock, you can sleep, but come for the morning. So sleep early if you want. So therefore, our enthusiasm should be tempered with practical situation of the body. We should take care. Like it's the winter season, I would never wear socks in those days. And I would never wear a cap or a sweater. So I thought I have a body of steel. You know, very soon I realized as my body started aging, without properly protecting the body, my service is going to be hampered. So enthusiasm is good, but we should not be foolish and imaginative about our body mind resources. Body has limit, mind also has limit. You will see that some of us, like Prabhu was telling about consciousness, it is a good point. One thing is enthusiasm. Another thing, we all have a psychophysical nature. Certain services suit us. Therefore, it is said, if you love a service, you don't have to work for a day in your life. You can go on doing that service happily, joyfully till your last breath, because it matches very well with your psychophysical nature. There are 4 psychophysical natures Lord Krishna explains in the Gita. You can remember Tata, TATA, you can remember. Teachers, administrators, traders, artisans. So teachers means a person of words, and administrator and teachers and traders means person of gold or person of money, one who deals with money. And the 4th one, artisans. They are people of senses, which means hands and legs. So the first one, man of word or person of word, they are very good at writing poems, writing. They can give advice. They can be judges. They can be motivational talkers. They can be writers. Such kinds of people are people of word. They have intelligence. In the same manner, the person of sword is the administrator. He can plan, organize, coordinate, control, monitor, and all those things they can do. They like people and things they can do. And person of money, they can invest money and take out a lot of money. They see everything in money. Everywhere they see dollar notes, like that. And the last person can assist the previous 3 classes. So we have to find out what is, some people, the last one doesn't want to take any initiative on one's own, doesn't think much, but they are ready to do whatever they're told to do. So they can do. So we have to find out which one we fit in well, and we stick to that, then we'll be jolly in our service also. So whatever spiritual service comes to us. So one is about the psychophysical nature I told you just now. Prior to that, I told you, temper your enthusiasm with practicality. Don't exert yourself too much. Don't go to comfort zone or don't go to panic zone. In between, there is stretch zone. Whatever we are doing, we should be little extra stretch over our ability, but not too much of stretch. Too much of stretch is panic zone. So in this way, we can learn, and we want to be like a lamp which can glow throughout our life till the last breath. Otherwise, what will happen? Imagine if you have a hurricane lamp, you glow so big flame that it forms a soot on the glass. Then the purpose of the lamp is defeated, because the soot blocks the light from going out, isn't it? So therefore, we don't want to exert too much that in such a way that we exhaust our resources so early that we become, in ISKCON, there are 2 cliches used. Fired up devotee, fried out devotee. So we should be which one? Fired up, not fried out. So Uddhava was old, but his spirit never became old, Prabhupada says. So the 4th one, well, let's read. Is the translation, please? Was the mic with him? Yeah.
For a moment, he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy.
Yeah. So some symptoms of devotional ecstasy are mentioned here. He was like dead silent. His body did not budge an inch. He was absorbed in remembrance of nectar of devotion service, all that. So, some symptoms Prabhupada gives here, that he appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Actually, pure devotee never forgets the Lord, even for a moment. He's an Nitya Siddha. But he claims that he has forgotten the Lord. Like Lord Chaitanya said, I have no love for Krishna. If I had, how am I alive still? He said. So this is one of the symptoms of a very advanced devotee. So Prabhupada says, remembering the Lord and being in personal presence of the Lord is same, he says. One disciple was telling Prabhupada, Prabhupada, if I had opportunity to hear from Krishna directly in the battle of Kurukshetra, how nice it would have been. Prabhupada said, there is no difference of you hearing from Krishna or hearing from me, or even reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is because the Lord lives in his sound and the follower lives with him. Similarly, the spiritual master lives in his sound also, and the follower lives with him always. So we should know that the sound manifestation of Lord is same as the Lord. So that's one thing he says. Like you all know very well, in the later chapter, 15th chapter, Arjuna cried tears of affection for Krishna when Krishna had left the world. But how did he get soulless? Anybody knows? By remembering Bhagavad Gita. Exactly. Because the sound of vibration pacified him. Because he felt the presence of the Lord. Similarly, when the queens of Dwaraka came to Vrindavan, they were all lamenting that Krishna has left the world. But they saw Vrinda Devi was smiling happily. They asked Vrinda that, are you not feeling the lamentation of missing the Lord? Vrinda Devi said, I was, but when Lord left, Uddhava started speaking the glories of Lord Krishna and his pastimes in Vrindavan. Uddhava resides as a grass in Vrindavan. Hearing him narrate all Krishna's pastimes, I forgot all lamentation. Because now my heart is flooding with ecstasy. She said, hearing that, all the queens went to Uddhava in the form of a plant and requested him, please narrate Krishna's pastimes to us also. And they also became free from moroseness. Which means hearing the Lord's pastimes and seeing the Lord eye to eye, there is no difference between the two. Initially, Lord is obtained by the ears, gradually in our mind, and gradually with our eyes. The presence of the Lord will be very strongly felt. Like how many of you have experienced that sometimes your eyes are open, and when you're reading a book, you become so absorbed, and your eyes are open, somebody comes and stands in front of you. You don't even recognize that somebody is standing. You experience of this? That means you're so absorbed. They shake you and say, hey, don't you see I'm standing? Then you may come to external senses. That is how Uddhava came. When Uddhava was asked about Krishna, immediately his mind became posted in the spiritual plane. And then slowly he came to external consciousness after that. That's what he is saying. So here, yeah, yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
Prabhuji, I think recording may not be started, Prabhu.
Recording is going on, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So, in this way, here the last part you see, it says that Uddhava exhibited that 8 symptoms of ecstasy: tears, shivering of the body, perspiration, restlessness, throbbing, choking of the throat, and all that, which are experienced by advanced devotees in the stage of ecstasy. So, how will you know if somebody is crying tears, somebody is shaking their body, they are saying the hair is standing on end? They are really in that platform. Sometimes due to winter, cold winter also hair stands on end. You may shiver due to that also, isn't it? How do you know there? Some people may claim that I am in that ecstatic plane, and people cry also tears. There is one hand up, yeah, yes, Prabhu, sure.
I really love this question because I think about this myself because it's happened to me a handful of times, a lot of times in private. And so I wonder, it's like, if it ever happened in front of the devotees, how would they know that I'm genuinely having an experience? And my answer I came up with is you just have to know that person very well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add to that? The mic.
What the devotee's lifestyle is. So, like, if you observe their whole lifestyle, is it just for that moment? Are they having an experience, or are they engaged in service all day? And then...
Okay. So, which means can we say our basis for ascertaining a devotee's advancement is doing service all day. There are many people who do a lot of service all day in ISKCON. Very hardworking devotees, we see. There are 9 symptoms given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for us. You will read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It begins like this. There is a verse. Shantiravyartha kalatvam viraktirmana shunyata ashabandha samutkantha namagane sadaruchi asaktistat gunakhyane pritistat pasatistale. These are the 9 symptoms. I'll tell you what they are. In English, I'll tell you. Kshanti means, a great degree of tolerance and forgiveness. Very advanced devotees. They forgive even the terrible sinners like Hiranyakashipu was forgiven by Prahlad. They are very, very advanced in forgiving. Nityanand Prabhu was hit with a pot on the forehead. He forgave Madai and gave him love of God. That is their nature. That's first one. Shanti. Avyartha kalatvam. They will never waste one moment of time also. 24/7 they are contemplating on how to engage the time in Krishna service. Avyartha kalatvam. And virakti means not only they have given up the sense objects, they lose taste for sense enjoyment altogether completely. Which means even if the objects of the senses are given to them, they will say, what will I do with it other than engaging in Krishna service? They don't know any other way to misuse they will never misuse the sense objects. So there is Kshanti Ravyartha Kalatvam, Virakti. And Manashunyata means they are completely devoid of false prestige or any type of expectation of respect or honor. Manashunyata. Asha Bandha means they never lose hope in devotion service, even if they're defeated several times. They always, like Prabhupada was defeated 8 times when he was in America in putting up a temple. You will read it in Lilamrita. That's another great, amazing pastime. But he said, I will die preaching here. And if I die in New York, he said, bury my body in Manhattan, in the top of a building, he said. But I will die preaching. This is Asha Bandha. Asha Bandha means, they have a tremendous attitude of hope against hope. Samutkantha. Kantha means the throat. Sometimes we wait for a train, we stretch our throat and see this train coming. Like that, a devotee is always longing, when will Krishna's mercy come in my life? Kabe habe bolo Sayyidina Amar. That's a song also. When will Krishna, when will I see the lotus feet of Krishna? When will the time come and I will go to Goloka and meet the Lord eye to eye and I will, engage in his service? So in this way, there is always a longing in the heart of the devotee, Samutkanta. And Namakani Sadaruchi means a devotee delights in chanting of the holy name. We can see that our chanting is not so enjoyable. It's like climbing a mountain. When you are not yet pure, you are not purified. Namakani Sadaruchi. Asaktistat Gunakhyane. A devotee delights in describing about Krishna's activities, Lord's activities, how the Lord performs pastimes. Very, very, like Bhishma was lying in arrow bed. All the arrows are poking his body. But when he was asked question about Krishna, he happily spoke about Krishna. He never gave any reason. Don't you see so many needles are pricking my body? How can I describe? He didn't say that. Very joyfully he described about Krishna. Asaktistat Grunakhyane. Pritistat Vasatistale. When they go to the holy places, they fondly remember the pastimes of the Lord. Like, oh, this is the same mountain, Govardhan, which Lord Krishna lifted. This is the same place, Govindakund, where Indra came along with his elephant carrier and then performed Abhishekam for Krishna. This is the same Radhakund, Shyamkund, where the conversation between Radharani and Gopis happened with Krishna. So when devotees see those places, they feel delighted as if they have met the Lord personally. So they have great delight in those holy spots. They go regularly to the holy spots, roll on the ground, take the dust on their head, and they remember the Lord very much like that. So these are the 9 symptoms. So we can see that even without these 9 symptoms, sometimes these 8 symptoms manifest in us sometimes, like we may cry tears because some of us are emotional. We cry for everything. For Krishna also we cry, and for some family friends also we cry. So therefore that crying cannot be taken seriously. So we have to check these 8 symptoms which I told you, 9 symptoms, which therefore for ecstasy these are mentioned. So Uddhava not only was exhibiting these symptoms, but the 9 which I told you, those were also manifest in him. So yes, Prabhu, please.
I think this is probably included in all those that you just shared, but this level of ecstasy and love of Godhead is accompanied by humility, by danya, by humility.
Yeah,
And
that is
so,
what is the second one, I think. Kshantir agartha kal manashunyata. That is humility.
and so like for instance, Srila Prabhupada would often always try to hide those ecstasies. You know, he wouldn't want to display them.
Yeah.
Also, someone, if someone has the appearance of wanting to display these things for others to see, then you know it's bogus.
That's true. Thank you. Now, another question for all of you. Now, sometimes devotees fear that, my life is short. If I don't come to the stage of experiencing these ecstasies in this very life and attain my Swarupa or my eternal form, what will happen? So devotees develop some kind of fear or tension. Due to that, they hastily make a wrong decision of going to Vrindavan and meeting some Babajis and trying to get some Swarup Siddhi Pranali. They get some mantra from them and leave ISKCON sometimes and get misguided. It has happened in ISKCON society. So in case you sometimes get a feeling in your mind that, there are so many misgivings in our heart, I'm not such advanced devotee. In this very life, can I make it back to Godhead? So if that worry comes, how do you pacify your mind and what answer you give to yourself? Anybody?
I've heard somewhere that Prabhupada said that 50 years of chanting you will achieve perfection if you chant for 50 years. So that gives me some hope.
Thank you. Very good. So she says that by several years of chanting, the Prabhupada has given us a promise and a confirmation that if you just do this, then it will be taken care. So her conviction comes from the words of the Acharya, which is very wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
I was reading one of the quotations from Burijan Prabhu where he mentions when it is like we are looking at my aspect. I want this, I want these ecstasies. But he said we should contemplate on the poem which Prabhupada wrote during Jalduta, that I am Bhakti Vedanta and I don't have this devotion. And so in that humility, we should ask for service rather than happiness.
Okay. So, one doesn't ask for happiness, but one wants to make sure that one will go back to Godhead. See, how many of you have a desire to go back to Godhead in this very life? See, all of us have a desire, isn't it? So is that desire wrong? And therefore people develop tension also. Devotees develop tension that, when you hear all these 8 symptoms, you develop fear that, oh, I am wondering, will I attain prema? Will I attain bhava in this stage? So people develop that fear. Basically, they want to develop this so that they can go back to Godhead and be with the Lord forever. Correct, no? So that cannot be told as wrong. That's definitely a good desire. But one of the ways, I'll tell you a very simple way by which you can overcome this fear. It's coming in one verse in the 3rd canto, where Prabhupada writes about Eme Swadharma Nirataha Tapasas Samadhi. There is one verse. I can tell you the verse number. I can tell you. I'll just show you the verse number. Very famous verse it is. So this is 3.23.7. Here Prabhupada says here, see what Kardamuni is telling here. One of you read the translation, please.
I have achieved the blessing of the Lord. in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are.
He's telling his wife, Devavati. So Devavati is a disciple, Kardama is a spiritual master. Huh? So spiritual master is pleased with the service of the disciple. Therefore, the spiritual master is giving the transcendental vision to the disciple as a gift. So in the purport, Prabhupada says something very, very important. Here he says that Devati was engaged only in the service of Karma. She was not supposed to be so advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness. But imperceptibly, she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see nor experience. Automatically, she achieved the graces of the Lord. And then Prabhupada says, what are the graces of the Lord? It is freedom from fearfulness of the material world. No, a devotee loses fear and devotee loses the hankering, both. Devotee does not hanker for anything material and loses fear. That's a grace. And in this way, Prabhupada says that as you go, hear what he says. Here he says, read this one.
For spiritual achievement, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success.
Yeah, that alone is the secret of success. And then Prabhupada says here that, again he says here, read this one.
By serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. By serving her devotee husband, Kardama Muni, Devahuti shared in his achievements. Similarly, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously.
Yeah, I can show you like this 4 or 5 purports if you want. There's another verse Prabhupada says, the disciple should not even think of going back to Godhead. But the disciple's attention should be fully focused on serving the words of the spiritual master word for word, he says. If you do that, that alone will take care of your going back to Godhead. Because how it happens, the mechanism is this. For example, I am in Anarthanavritti stage, for example. If Krishna sees that this devotee has faithfully served me, in one moment he can clear up your account and take you back to Godhead. That is in Lord's hands. So we don't have to worry too much. We only have to make sure that we don't waste our time in this world and we are fully engaged in seva as per the order of the spiritual master. That is the point. Then everything else will be taken care. So on the 5th one, please read the translation. It was so observed.
So observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord.
So Vidura is seeing this manifestation of pure love in Uddhava. So he's touched by Uddhava's devotion to Krishna. So Prabhupada talks about ecstasy more here. Basically, he says there are 3 levels. One is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, which we all are practicing. Another one is called Raganuga sadhana bhakti, which is spontaneous. And then the 3rd stage is Bhava and Prema bhakti, Prema bhakti. That's the 3rd stage. So what is the difference between the 3? Vaidhi sadhana bhakti means 64 items given by Rupa Goswami, we all practice. Like for example, chanting the holy name. 5 main items you all know. Anybody knows 5 main items? 5 potent forms of devotional service. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravan Madhuravasa Shri Murti Shraddhaya Sevan. So Sadhu Sangha is association of devotees. Nama Kirtan, we are doing chanting of the holy name. And Bhagavata Shravan, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam daily. And Madhuravasa is actually making our place like Vrindavan, Dham. Making it spiritual, just like here all the spiritual pictures are there. There's the altar, everyday worship is happening. This is Vrindavan. And Shri Murti Shraddhya Seva, worshipping of the deity form of the Lord and rendering seva. So in this way, these five are called five potent forms of devotional service among 64. And the others are also there, like accepting Charanamrit, circumambulating the Lord, bowing down to the Lord. Like that, there are 64 items. You can read them in the Nectar of Devotion. So, when you are doing these things, it's called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Then what happens? As the years progress, gradually it will turn into spontaneous love. Like, for example, you know, you initially you don't know how to do typing. But once you practice typing, after some time you can type very fast, even closing your eyes. You become, similarly, bhakti also will become very spontaneous and natural and lovable and very relishable. That is, spontaneous love will come, raganuga stage. Then eventually one will come to bhava prema stage. Everything starts with hearing and chanting. And then, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, Prabhupada says, he manifested all this, and he taught these things to Bhakti-Rasa to Prabhu Goswami. So this is the verse, sixth one, very important verse. Please read this translation. The great devotee.
Devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood.
Yeah. He came back from the abode of the Lord, he says, to the human plane. So material world is human plane, abode of the Lord is the spiritual plane. Abode of the Lord not only means that you have to go back to Godhead from here to here, in your consciousness also you can go back. In our consciousness, you can be in Vrindavan consciousness. When Prabhupada came to America, he was telling in the lecture, my godbrothers are celebrating great festival for Janmashtami in Vrindavan, and I'm here, I'm missing it, he said. So one girl asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, if you are so much missing it, then why don't you go back and stay in Vrindavan? Prabhupada said, if I am staying in Vrindavan, then who will come to give you lectures? Prabhupada said, who will come to preach to you? Therefore I have come here. But although Prabhupada was physically here, his heart was in Vrindavan. Same thing with Uddhava also. Can you please read the purport, please?
In the transcendental ecstasy of love of God, he actually forgot all about the external world. The pure devotee lives constantly in the abode of the Supreme Lord, even in the present body, which apparently belongs to this world. The pure devotee is not exactly on the bodily plane, since he is absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme. When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord Dwarka to the material plane of human beings. Even though a pure devotee is present on this mortal planet, he is here in relation to the Lord for engagement in transcendental loving service and not for any material cause. A living entity can live either on the material plane or in the transcendental abode of the Lord in accordance with his existential condition.
Yeah. Like we are all here. The Prabhupada was here in America, but he was on a mission. He was not just here to just make dollar notes, put in the pocket and go back. He was on a spiritual mission. Hanuman, you all know Hanuman? In Ramayana, he went to Lanka, but he was on a mission to find out Sita. Like that he says, a devotee comes to this world for a mission. Go ahead.
The conditional changes of the living entity are explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the instructions given to Srila Rupa Goswami by Lord Sri Chaitanya. The living entities are all over the universes are enjoying the effects of the respective fruitive results of their own work life after life. Out of all of them, some may be influenced by the association of pure devotees and thus get the chance to execute devotional service by attainment of taste. This taste is the seed of devotional service, and one who is fortunate enough to have received such a seed is advised to sow it in the core of his heart. As one cultivates a seed by pouring water to fructify it, the seed of devotional service sown in the heart of the devotee may be cultured by pouring water in the form of hearing and chanting of the holy name and pastimes of the Lord. The creeper of devotional service, so nourished, gradually grows, and the devotee, acting as a gardener, goes on pouring the water of constant hearing and chanting.
The creeper of devotional service gradually grows so high that it passes through the entire material universe and enters into the spiritual sky, growing still higher and higher until it reaches the planet of Goloka Vrindavan. The devotee gardener is in touch with the abode of the Lord even from the material plane by dint of performing devotional service to the Lord simply by hearing and chanting. As a creeper takes shelter of another, stronger tree, similarly, the creeper of devotional service, nourished by the devotee, takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and thus becomes fixed. When the creeper is fixed, then the fruit of the creeper comes into existence, and the gardener who nourished it is able to enjoy this fruit of love, and his life becomes successful.
And that Uddhava attained, incomplete.
This stage that Uddhava attained, this stage is evident from his dealings. He could simultaneously reach the supreme planet and still appear in this world.
So the fruit of love of God is obtained in the spiritual world, but the watering should be done here, he says. So all of us are doing this now in our life, and by Prabhupada's mercy and his purports. If you just continue this, eventually we will attain love of God. It's only a matter of time. And as you all said, many nice answers to the question about how can we faithfully do it. We got 3-4 answers for that. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you. You all can take